Crazy Stupid Podcast.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, if this is your first time watching, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so that you are aware of when we post things.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about the season finale of season 1 of XMEN 97. We are also going to be talking about House of the Dragon.
I kind of want to start off with X-Men.
Okay, let's dive right in.
So first and foremost, I don't want to let recency bias kick in, but this might be Disney Plus' best TV show.
You like it better than Loki and...
Well, I mean, Loki, I think, is like obviously the best one. And then obviously, you know, WandaVision was right up there. I feel like WandaVision had social media in a chokehold like for weeks. Everyone was like, all right, what does this mean? What does that mean? And obviously Loki exploring that was extremely cool. Both seasons I really enjoyed, but I don't feel like this show has had that sort of fluctuation in quality that typically happens with an MCU show, which they start off strong those first 2 episodes, and then the 3rd episode there's like a dip. The tone feels different, things slow down so much, and then episode 4 boring as hell. Then episode 5 you try to pick things back up, and then episode 6 you try to cram everything together, and then they try to do the little act 3 thing where there's like always a big battle,
less money, so it looks super
and
whack.
it never ends up looking that great. I didn't feel any of that with this season.
Well,
Granted,
they gave him 10 episodes,
more episodes, and they were like 30 minutes.
I was gonna say the episodes were shorter, so the runtime might actually be this like around the same.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll let things cool down, but I think it's at number 1.
I think this just points to the power of animation, because I think that there are things that will come across in animation just fine that will come across like more corny or cheap. It just won't come across as well in live action.
Yeah.
There's like some corniness to the show, but like it doesn't feel corny. It just kind of feels like it's being its authentic self, you know? And I think that helps a lot. I think that what a lot of the live action shows suffered from was, like you're saying, like that tonal difference. Like they didn't have consistency in tone, because it's like they were kind of trying to do too much at the same time in a too short of a time span.
Yeah.
And I agree. I do think that X-Men didn't have any of those issues. I did love WandaVision right up until the end. I do think it kind of sucks that so much of what the people were speculating about was like just a nothing burger, like throughout the season. Like I think that's kind of annoying to do.
And some of it felt like they were trolling us a bit.
Yeah, like you knew that was going to happen. It's whatever.
Yeah.
I also kind of think that the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie, I think the way that everything went in that movie and how that was done with Wanda too, I feel like kind of dinged the show too, in my opinion.
It kind of backtracked her character growth.
It was very strange. I could not connect the Wanda of WandaVision at the end of the show to the Wanda in Multiverse of Madness. I was like, I don't really know.
Yeah, I know they tried to make the claim that like the Darkhold changed her. It makes sense, but I feel like it would have made better sense for me if you saw the change on screen.
Yeah, and it was also just like, why did you guys do that then? Because the whole thing was you kind of like brought her to a space of like somewhat acceptance in the show, and then for what? I don't know, it's but again, I did that. I don't want to say that I didn't love that show. I did love that show. And also I do think that X-Men 97 is a lot better. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you feel that by having the like big bad boss villain at the end of the season be more machine than human, do you think that it undercut the general theme and message of the season? My question is, do you feel that by having like the big bad boss villain at the end of the season be more of a machine than a human, do you think that like undercuts the theme of the season? The only reason why I'm saying that is because it feels like in the end, like humanity became the victim as well, and so they could kind of like sidestep the whole conversation of like humanity's prejudice and discrimination, because they're like, actually there's this other thing, I don't know, or am I missing something?
I kind of saw Bastion like he is the metaphor for what bigotry looks like. That word tolerance kept coming up often with the way that he described mutants. And so if he is the worst impulse of humanity, I was going to say like privileged groups are also harmed by the systems that they claim are like maintaining their power structures.
And I was thinking about that too. And also I feel like we didn't get enough of seeing how this system was ever a service to humanity.
I think the most we got was when the Prime Sentinels came and crashed Robert's mom's party. They paused when they saw that the humans were afraid of them. Robert's like trying to convince his mom, like, we need to take care of these Prime Sentinels. And then everyone in the room is like, why? They seem very safe. They seem like a very reasonable response to this group of people that we are afraid of.
I feel like if we see like humanity and the governing forces of our power system decided to utilize these sentinels as a means to control and oppress the mutant population, and we see that at play and then see the turn, to me it makes the connection between like humanity's role in this a little bit more clear.
I wouldn't be surprised if they explore that component in the next season, because where Jean and Cyclops are at, things don't look great.
That is possible. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think they did kind of backtrack on some of their stuff, the way they handle Magneto. I'm like a little bit less confident in their ability now to like really handle this.
What do you think they backtracked on?
Well, because I think they did what I was afraid that they were going to do, which is that they took his character in such a direction where you could no longer justify his choices. That was my concern from jump, was that, okay, you guys spent a whole bunch of time being like, he was right, and presenting him as a character that actually stand by what he was saying and doing for most of the season. He wasn't actively trying to harm humanity in any way. He wasn't indiscriminately killing or harming people. He was simply saying, my response to what you guys are doing is I take care of me, myself, and my own. We take care of us. And I like that position and I can stand by that. And then I feel like they still had to do the thing that they always do, which is he gets pushed to the brink and now his actions are unjustifiable. And
yeah. I think my frustration with Professor X is I don't know what accountability looks like for him towards humans.
Agreed.
And I don't know what does he see as like reparations to an extent, because he's not discrediting or he's not trying to disregard the point that Magneto's making about like these groups of people over here are the aggressors. The humans are consistently the ones that have marginalized us, and everything that we've done has been responsive. But most of the conversations that I've seen him being really centered around is, how do I stop people like Magneto from going too far, which hurts our chance of living in community with humans. And I don't think that that's wrong. Like, I do think that sort of inclusive mentality, like, that is an end goal, but like there's got to be a level of like accountability, and I acknowledge like that probably exists in the comics to an extent. I haven't read that much to get this specific answer from Professor X, but that I feel like is probably why so many people resonate with Magneto a little bit more. And the show actually did a lot for me to really double down on that, because Professor X was gone. He was in space getting married, like living the life to an extent. Yeah. And Magneto, not only did he have to, he lived through the Holocaust, but while Professor X was gone, he had to live through a similar experience with Genosha. And the first thing he does when he comes back, really, like, he has an argument with the president, but primarily it's about trying to appeal to Magneto's nature again. And then Magneto was just like, bro, shut up. And I'm like, yeah, like, no one wants to hear that right now. He's gone through 2 experiences where the main purpose was to wipe out a demographic that he's a part of. At some point, Xavier, I need to see a plan for how are you going to start holding these humans accountable, because I haven't seen anything yet.
It feels like all it is a moral stance, and there's no strategy or plan behind it. It's just, I really believe that if we show them how good we are, they will change their minds. And Magneto is saying that's not true. And on that, he is right. I would be interested to see how they flesh him out, if they flesh him out a little bit more. Yeah. Just because that to me is like, that's just missing. Like there's like that piece of the conversation, like what you're saying about like, how do we take care of each other, hold people accountable, and genuinely strategize and organize with a real plan. That conversation it's always missing. Even like in Black Panther, like it is kind of wild. I love you, Ryan Coogler and Chadwick Boseman. You're in my heart forever. But it is really wild that Killmonger's issue was y'all been up here posted up safe for decades, while all around the world, all these people have been the victims of systemic oppression and violence, and you've had all the tools necessary to end it right now.
Yeah.
And when T'Challa has his big realization, his response is, I'm gonna go to LA and I'm going to build whatever the heck I can't remember.
A youth center, I think.
Friend.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, hello, like you guys have endless amounts of wealth.
I think because of the social political climate that we're in right now, some of these superhero stories aren't always landing the best, because the main purpose for the creation of a lot of these superhero stories is to reflect the conversations of the time in which they were in. World War I, World War II. There is a lot of conversations about redistributing it and resources and accountability and restorative ideas and reparations. And then when you have these extremely wealthy superheroes like Tony Stark, like T'Challa, like Bruce Wayne, and you see how they can sometimes use their wealth on a very reactive level, the message doesn't always land and it feels fluky. Like in Black Panther, what you just mentioned, when he builds the youth center at the end, which is like, Killmonger is probably rolling in his grave where he's like, bro, that's not what I meant.
Versus, youth centers will not free us.
Yeah. Which is why I appreciate what they did with Eve, because they didn't explore that much, but at least they showed scenes of her doing it, using her powers in Invincible to actually make like real permanent change and not doing things that are like extremely reactive. And I would also argue in The Dark Knight Rises, I think Christopher Nolan probably read the room a little bit also, where Alfred is kind of telling him like, Gotham doesn't need your muscle or your body. It needs your brain, your resources, your knowledge. And so him bringing up like the idea that Bruce was trying to work on like this reactor core that could create, renewable energy. Yeah, that doesn't have to be the entire story of Batman, but to not have that existing would make the story feel a little bit less compelling, because it's like, I mean, yeah, like you're a billionaire beating up people in the streets, like, you know what I mean?
I'm not gonna lie, Batman really gets to me, because I remember in the intro to The Batman, I know that the vibes were amazing and the song was great and the intro was awesome.
The dude sprays
and the monologue was really good, but the first time I watched it, not on the rewatch, the first time, all of that's happening, I'm hearing the monologue, I am the darkness, da 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 da. The only thing going through my mind is, this is the crime?
Yeah.
Petty theft and graffiti?
Also, they're spraying it on the bank that was stealing their money.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't address the whole conversation of like, I mean, the reason why all these superheroes like Bruce Wayne and them are just running in circles all the time, just trying and having to beat up different villains, different people, is because crime is not a problem that can be solved solely with punitive measures.
Yeah. What's so funny, when I rewatched The Dark Knight Returns, because that comic is really where Nolan got a lot of his Batman inspiration from. Mm-hmm. Even in that comic, the writer is kind of poking fun at what he would describe as like these liberal ideas of like problem solving in communities and societies, right? Like these restorative measures, they paint the people who are supposedly the voices for these, these liberal perspectives as kind of kooky, as like you're out there and like your ideas sound good on paper, but when you try to actually implement them, it makes it sound kind of loosey-goosey, which you see that tactic get used in real life. But in actuality, there is a lot of evidence, like experience-based evidence to prove that a lot of these restorative measures do work. It's just kind of frustrating that like those ideas are still sort of perceived as not irrational, but impossible to achieve.
When they had the little choral rendition of the theme song.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's the good stuff.
Hey, let me tell you, the music in this entire season of X-Men has been fire. I was just talking to my friends about that. Anytime Storm came onto the scene and they played that little piano theme song, yo, I was losing my mind. I'm talking goosebumps, bro. The way that they were hyping her up this entire season, bro. I love Storm so much now, bro.
I do too. I still feel like I need more. I still feel like they be letting Jean steal the show every time.
Yeah.
And I understand she's whatever, she's got the Phoenix, whatever.
But they're both Omega level threats.
But I would like to see a little bit more of Storm really going off. And we lost a lot of time because y'all decided to put her on that story arc where she lost her powers.
Also, I think for the new X-Men, she should be the face of it. I think we need a break from Charles and Magneto and Logan as like the three pillars of the story. I think there's room for you to focus on other characters. And I would argue the positive reaction that Marvel is getting to characters like Storm and honestly Cyclops. And there's a rumor out there that they're trying to get Ryan Coogler to direct the movie.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to put Ryan Coogler in a box, but if you do put Ryan Coogler on this project, I feel like I can give it like a 75% chance that Storm will be the face.
Yeah. he takes care of Black women. So House of the Dragon. This was the time jump episode. And this apparently was the lowest rated episode of the season. Not low as in like it was like a 4.5.
No, but lower than that. I mean, I think probably everybody was just kind of jarred. We had to adjust.
It was. We've talked in length on and off camera about Alicent. But I'm sorry, she's being a straight up hater in this episode.
Yes.
In previous episodes, it was feeling like she was targeting Rhaenyra less for her actions as opposed to now. It's very targeted at Rhaenyra. And that, I think, is the difference. There were moments where you could see her frustration with Viserys, her frustration with her father, especially. Now, all of that is just on Rhaenyra. And granted, the context of them having romantic feelings does change things. But man, Alicent, I'm like, your anger should not be at a woman trying to find agency in a patriarchal system. Your anger should be at the patriarchal system, which is why I'm really glad Rhaenys called her out in that later episode. She's like, you don't care about the patriarchy. You are actually comfortable in how did she frame it? Like, looking out the window from your own cage, essentially.
Yeah, nobody cares about the patriarchy except for Rhaenys, okay? No, that or these give a shit. I think that rules and regulations and custom and tradition is so heavily ingrained in her. I don't think she even knows how to properly direct her anger because of how she thinks about like tradition and rules and abiding by them and all this kind of stuff. I don't think she sees a pathway of even taking out her anger on the correct parties. Any person who is part of an oppressed group who upholds the oppressive structures is that they have been so thoroughly propagandized or whatever that they don't see, like they cannot see it. And it's really hard to get people like that to understand the flaw in their logic. That's what I think it is.
I think the point that you made last time we recorded, where you were like, I don't think Alicent truly becomes fearful of her kids until Aemon loses his eye.
Oh, yeah. I did say that. That's true.
So up until this point, I actually don't think it's fearful of protecting her kids. I think it's just straight up like internalized biases towards women. She sees Rhaenyra less than now because she has had multiple partners. You've internalized something about women.
I think that she sees it as an insult to the rules.
But she said things like dignity and decency. I don't know. Those feel kind of like dog whistly words like towards
Fair
women
point.
and modesty.
I think you're right. I'm right. I think I was right that she does not genuinely fear for their lives. That's a fair point. But I also think that I do think she is aware of the fact that no one is in their corner. And I think that is what's scary. I think you're right, and I was right, that she knows Rhaenyra is probably not just going to go on a violent rampage. But I think she is afraid that there is something brewing in the works. There is some tension in the works, and there is no one with real power backing her. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is actually genuinely scary. And whether or not that violent threat ends up coming from Rhaenyra actually coming after her kids, or if it is something else, I think that is genuine fear.
What I will say, I think Rhaenyra was wrong, and I think Rhaenyra was wrong for taking his advice of saying the wise sailor flees the storm as it gathers. No, I'm sorry. You need to weather this storm. You made this bed, you gotta lie in it. When you all decided to have multiple partners because obviously this was an arranged marriage, you didn't really want any part of it. That's fine, I completely understand that. But I think it's dumb for you all to run from King's Landing. And at first I was confused as to why would Rhaenyra leave? She can't be that dumb to not think that Alicent wouldn't dig her hands more into Viserys, and they named that in this episode where she does have the awareness to know that's going to happen, but she still decides to leave. And this is Rhaenyra's biggest mistake of the entire series. She
couldn't take the heat. That's all it was.
Entire series. And this is where my frustration as a Team Black member, this is where my frustration with Rhaenyra comes in. She decides to leave fully knowing that Alicent is going to have complete control over Viserys, right? The second thing, when they're in that council meeting, Rhaenyra is not interested in what's happening in that conversation at all. She only sort of steps in and usurps herself when she sees Alicent presenting dominance in the room. I noticed that dynamic a few times. She's not saying a word until Alicent decides she's going to try to make a decision on something very specific, like the stepstones, and then Rhaenyra says, oh, wait, no. I need to step in.
She made good points.
Which is fair, but it's
it's a continuation of what we saw the episode of Aegon's party, where it's you wanted this and now they got to drag you to all the responsibility.
Right.
I agree. I thought about that too.
And I think she is a little conflict avoidance like her dad, like Viserys.
Oh, maybe.
She's avoiding things because of decisions that she's made, and she don't really want to deal with it. True. She got a lot of her father.
That's true.
And it's not always a good thing.
I don't have a problem with the arrangement. I think that's perfectly fine. Y'all didn't want to have, you were forced to marry each other. My thing is, this is the worst possible position for Harwin Strong. I mean, my goodness. Now, he's a grown man. He chose to do this. He does not seem cool with it. He seems accepting of it because this is the only option available to him. But he is definitely bothered by the fact that he cannot be the named father of his kids.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's the thing that sucks, is he just kind of has to stand by and watch them grow up from a distance.
Yeah.
And can never truly, you know what I mean? That is just so shitty. Listen, this is not a moral argument. Do what you want. I see no moral qualms with this because the man that you're married with doesn't care.
We gotta put our
but it is just so dumb to me. It is just such a stupid It is, again, it's just her being hey, I just want to do it.
Yeah.
I just want to, okay?
People can say a lot of things about Daemon, but he was in the room when Laena was giving birth to their kid. Laena didn't do that with Rhaenyra. Viserys didn't do that with Emma. Only Daemon's the one so far who has done that. And when the doctor gives him the same choice that Viserys had, Daemon shakes his head and says, no. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. This episode portrayed him well. He is, however, a bad dad.
Yeah, he's got his favoritism. It's not going well. And I think the last trailer that comes out is hinting at the daughters are aware of that favoritism, and I hope they explore that angle a bit, because that would be very interesting for me to see, because it looks like they're giving the daughters a lot more screen time in this season, which is a great change than in the books. I'm sorry, I know you book enthusiasts out there. This is a good change. We're getting more Baela and Laena. That's a good thing. So,
it's the favoritism, but also I don't think he's emotionally present. You kind of see it at the end.
They cut a scene there though.
Oh,
which I thought was kind of a little annoying, because the actresses who play the daughters show there's a scene where he goes and he embraces both of them, gives them a hug.
But I think they did it on purpose.
Because it's like, this doesn't feel like Daemon.
I think they did it on purpose to show that nigga does not know how to deal with emotions like this.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree. I do agree that there has been, I think there is some maturity. I also think he's just kind of like suppressing a lot of shit. But
Very on brand.
yeah. The only other thing I really quick wanted to say was, I do remember when this episode first aired, some people were like, Alicent knew that was going to happen. That
With
lady,
Larys?
Yeah. That lady did not know. She was genuinely shocked. Genuinely appalled.
Do you think that makes her kind of dumb though? Like, or maybe she just wasn't capable of what Larys could do at that point because he hadn't done anything that crazy.
I don't think it makes her dumb because, one, that reason. I don't think he had shown himself capable of that. But also, B, she didn't actually even imply anything like that. Any regular person would understand she is simply venting.
It's going to be interesting to see how she tries to tame him, I guess.
I think as things ratchet up, she will try to tame him less and less. I think as things,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see some real unhinged behavior from her, and I can't wait. What I do need to see though, to make the show just a bit more interesting, y'all gotta start to. I need the Team Black side. I need them to get a little bit more messy. Okay, it's reading a little bit too much like good versus evil right now. I need it to get a little bit more.
Oh, it will.
Okay, that's what
The very
that's what
first
I mean.
episode is titled Blood and Cheese, or Sun for a Son, I think, and it's the moments where Blood and Cheese takes place. And the book readers, you know what that is. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, we're gonna pop off right away.
All right, thank you all so much for tuning in again. We will see you all next time. Take care, everyone. Peace.